It's Saturday night, September 21st, 2019. I'm exploring the wilderness west of Goose Bay, Labrador. I spent most of the day in town catching up on emails and tending to some life maintenance. And then after all that was done, I was ready to start traveling again, but I just wanted to spend the night around here and do some local exploring. I did not expect to find these corridors of golden leaves and beautiful waterfalls. This turned out to be quite an unexpected adventure. All I was looking for was a place to pop the camper for the night, and there is plenty of that. That road was an out and back, and it terminated at a lake. It was about 45 kilometers, and I had to backtrack 25 kilometers to get to camp. And I've got a great place to camp tonight. It's a clearing, there's a fire ring, it's off the dirt road a little ways. Tomorrow I'm going to break camp and head back into town to replenish my fuel and start making my way west toward Churchill Falls. It's Sunday morning, almost 10 a.m., and it's absolutely beautiful here. The ground is covered with this coarse white moss or lichens, and it really contrasts with the conifers and the turning leaves. It's a beautiful day, blue sky, the sun is out. I almost hate to leave. But that's what I'm going to do because I have a lot of ground to cover. I'm going to head into town, get gas, and then resume traveling west on the Trans-Labrador Highway. Before I left camp, I performed a quick inspection on the underside of the Jeep, and everything looks pretty good, except the rear sway bar end link on the driver's side is shot, and it's making a heck of a lot of noise. It's not a critical component, it just assists in the stability of the Jeep, but if you hear a lot of rattling and clunking when I drive by the camera, it's most likely that. Churchill Falls is the next significant milestone heading west on the Trans-Labrador Highway. It is 5 hours away and approximately 290 kilometers. So that's a lot of driving. Along the way, I'm going to keep my eyes open for offshoots, looking for primitive roads, two tracks, and remote places to explore. So there's no telling whether or not I'll get to Churchill Falls today, but that's where I'm heading. This is a great spot, an epic campsite with a view of a waterfall. I'm not spending the night here, but I should definitely mark it on my GPS. Someone made a charming tent site by the river. Unfortunately, the weather took a turn on me. I am looking for a campsite, but something a little bit more sheltered. Gonna keep driving. It's always either mild or ludicrous. There's nothing in between. Beautiful, beautiful trail. There's nothing on it, just a bunch of colors and a couple fallen trees, but it goes up to the power line. I'm gonna backtrack and see if I can find a place to camp near here. Last night I kept following this road near the washed out hillside that I ran across. It shows up on Backroad Mapbooks Canada and continues for another kilometer past this point. But down there you can see where the brush gets dense. There's yet another washout, which is why no one travels past that point. So fortunately there was a little pull-off right here with a stone fire circle and a great place to spend the night. Alright, I am onward to Churchill Falls. Now Churchill Falls is both a town where I can resupply, get gas, and there's also a significant waterfall nearby. I'm looking forward to visiting both. Wow. That waterfall was epic. I did a Google image search before my visit, and the pictures don't do it justice. I doubt my video is going to do it justice either. It's one of those places that you really have to see for yourself. For the rest of the day, my mission is to find a cool place to camp and take a breather. I'm covering a lot of ground, and I'm going to be in Western Labrador in no time. I just followed a very long track to the north looking for places to camp. I found a suitable spot near that dam, but I kept going just in case there were more, and I just found a lot of private cabins, but I'm at the end of the road now. Gonna lose daylight soon, so I'm gonna start backtracking. It's Tuesday morning, and after my hike at the waterfall yesterday, I set off to find a place to spend the night. I targeted this road that I saw on my GPS that ran 80 kilometers into the western wilderness. The road itself was interesting enough, but most of the offshoots were occupied by private cabins. And then around the 60-kilometer mark, I got to the dam. Beyond the dam, there was this gravel pit, which I marked on my GPS as a possible place to spend the night. I kept going another 20 kilometers, and it was beautiful, but I didn't find any place else, so I backtracked to here, and I spent a nice quiet night here. Labrador itself is huge, but it's mostly undeveloped, so there's only one major road that runs through it, and that is the Trans-Labrador Highway, which runs east to west. I'm only about 2/3 of the way across Labrador, but the highway, from what I've seen so far, is mostly paved and in very good condition, except for the stretch between the junction to Cartwright and Goose Bay. That's about 200 kilometers of gravel, and it's under active construction right now, September 2019. As far as offshoots go that are suitable for four-wheel drive exploration, there are resource roads that wander into the wilderness that are used by communities to collect firewood and such for domestic use. There are power line access roads that's often used by utility companies, and they're usually dead ends, so I don't bother exploring them. And then there are other miscellaneous routes that lead to private cabins and lakes, usually just a short distance from the highway itself. Now, if you're planning a vehicle-supported adventure across Labrador, my recommendation is to get off the highway as often as you can. Explore every single offshoot because that's where you'll find the waterfalls, the campsites, the scenic destinations, and the best-kept secrets. Just make sure you have enough gas because gas stations are few and far between. When I packed up and left this morning, I was thinking I want to spend more time at camp, but I don't want it to necessarily be a gravel pit. So as soon as I hit the Trans-Labrador Highway, I traveled west, almost all the way to Labrador City, explored maybe 24 different tracks, and turned up nothing until I got to here. This is a nice sandy flat spot surrounded by trees and hills, and there's a beautiful pond right over there. This is perfect. It's frosty this morning. It's a cold one. The temperature on the dash said 29 degrees Fahrenheit this morning, and it was refreshing, but the sun's coming out now and it's thawing pretty quickly. I think I'm just going to hang out around camp today, maybe do some exploring on foot around here. Not much in the way of hiking trails, but my campsite is off of what seems to be an ATV or snowmobile route. A lot of trails zigzagging around, so I think it's sort of a recreational area. My camera is buttery. According to my GPS, this is Goose Bay Junction. It's only 2 kilometers east of camp, and it explains why I heard so many trains throughout the night. Tracks seem to run a great distance, north and south throughout Labrador. It looks like they go pretty remote. This has been a superb campsite. It's definitely getting a recommended annotation in my GPS data. I think in the last 30 hours, maybe one ATV drove by, and other than that, it's been perfectly peaceful. Although the weather has taken a very abrupt turn. It'll probably be raining before the end of the night. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to break camp and continue into Labrador City, acquaint myself with town, and try to track down internet access for me to do my work at the end of the week. I covered a lot of ground this week, so I'll probably wrap up Labrador sooner than I expected. I'll spend the weekend in Labrador City, and then next week I'll continue west and cross into Quebec. It was a productive day in Labrador City. I spent much of the day wandering around town, getting to know the ins and outs. I went to the library, got some work done on my computer, and I also went to a restaurant called Hues and had an enormous burger. It was delicious. But I found fast internet, so I'll be able to publish this episode tomorrow, and then next week I'm going to start working my way into Quebec. Probably be in Canada for another 2 or 3 weeks yet, and then I'll cross back into the States before November. I haven't outlined a detailed plan yet, but when I get back to the States, my main focus is going to be winter preparedness. Making sure I have the appropriate gear for snow and freezing temperatures, and maybe make some improvements to the Jeep too. We'll see. But as usual, thanks for following along, and I'll catch up with you next week.